The next thing we're going to look at is adding the eyes. So we're going to open up this file right here. So we're just going to select the iris here. And to do that, we're going to use a geometric tool because the eye is fairly round. It's very round and we want a nice round selection here. We could probably use the quick selection tool, but we're not for this. We're going to use a different tool here. And the tool we're going to use is the Elliptical Marquee, and it's right here. By default, your rectangular marquee will probably be on top, so underneath the rectangular marquee is the Elliptical Marquee. And the way this tool works is you want to drag diagonally to make a selection. And it makes a geometric selection, not an organic selection like the other tool that we used did. And you can see here it's not really easy to draw perfectly at first, but you can move the tool around a little bit. You can move the selection around by holding down the space bar. Don't let go of the mouse. Hold down the space bar, and then you can shift the selection. So I'm holding down the space bar. I moved my selection up a little bit. I'm going to let go of the space bar now, and then I'm going to drag diagonally again. And if I need to, I can move my selection again. So it looks like I might have to move it a little bit over this way a bit. And then I can get it a little better here. Now the bottom of the eye I might just have to cut off a little bit, and I can do that later, or I can do that now if I want to. So I can just get this much of it and lose part of it, or I could leave that on there and try to see if it blends in with the statue. Now the statue I think is about the same color, the bust, the bust. So I don't think it'll have a problem blending here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the whole thing just for the heck of it and see what happens. So that's there. Now that I have the selection here, I can look in Refine Edge and see what it's going to look like on black. And see, the edge is pretty harsh here. So I might want to smooth it up a little bit. And I can do that by feathering it, or I can try smooth. Let's see what happens when we try smooth. So smooth is softening it up pretty nicely here. Okay, and remember what happens if we feather, it's going to gradually fade around the edges there. So see, it's going to gradually fade around there. So that might not be bad either. Let's actually try that this time. Let's try a little feather here and see how it works when we apply it to the image here. And you notice there's some eyelash in here, and we can get rid of that with a clone tool later if we want to, and you know how to do that. So that's up to you to do. Let's make the selection here first, so let's go ahead and click OK. And then let's copy and paste that. So Control C, and then we're going to paste it over here, and we're going to make sure you put it on top of the head. So make sure the head layer is selected first. And then we're going to have to resize it. Before we resize it though, let's try to get rid of those hairs. And actually, I think for the size of what we're looking at, we might not even see them, but let's go ahead and double click the magnifying glass, get to 1:1, and then see if we can get rid of those here. So probably the best way to do that is just to get the spot healing brush and drag it along and see if they disappear, which that one didn't do very well, but these are going away nicely. Okay, these ones up here. So that blended pretty well. Oh, that piece is down right there. And I can either erase that, or it doesn't even need to be there, because I'm going to get the eraser, because it's not even part of what I'm using. So any of that stuff I don't want, I can actually erase it with a soft brush. And that should be okay for now. So let's go ahead and zoom back out a little bit. And let's drag the eye, the move tool, up towards the face here. And then what are we going to have to do to make it smaller? Correct, the transform tool. Now, which side of the eye was this? It's the right side, so we'll start with the right side over here. And then let's go ahead and transform it. Before I do that, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can get the scale a little better. Okay, so transform, Control-T. And if we hold down the Shift key and drag from the corners, we're going to maintain our aspect ratio. So I just drag it until I get it the size that I want. Oops, see, I was trying to move it and I dragged it from the wrong place and kind of messed up the aspect ratio there. So I could actually step back, and if I needed to, if it was totally messed up, and I think I'm going to make it even smaller. And then when I commit the changes here, I'm going to click the checkbox, and then I'm going to get the move tool again and move it up here. Now it looks like it's a little too big still, so I'm going to zoom in, make it easier, and then I'm just going to transform again. Control-T again, make it a little smaller until I get it the right size. So I can move it around. It's going to be easier this time with the arrow keys. I'm moving it around with the arrow keys until I get it positioned properly and I can see that it's the correct size. So that looks pretty good. It looks perfect. I think that's exactly what I want there. So you can move it around again, position it, get it exactly where you want it. And then once we have it there, what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this layer. So we will go ahead and call this the right eye. And then we're going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to just drag it down to the new layer icon. And now I have right eye copy, and I'm going to call this left eye. Left eye. Okay, so I don't want it to be exactly the same as the right eye. What I want to do is I want to actually flip it. So the first thing I'm going to do is move it to the left side here. So I'm going to get the move tool, hit the V key, and make sure I'm on the left eye layer here, and then I can just drag it over. Okay, so it's pointing the opposite way. They're both looking the same way. It looks kind of odd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it. So I'm going to use Control-T, again, transform, and then I'm going to right click it, and then I'm going to say flip horizontally. So flip horizontal, and commit the changes, and now I should have them be symmetrical. So with the V key, the arrow keys, I can get it in the exact position that I want it. And I can see the little bit down under here that I cut off here, so I can move it down and hide it a little bit. And if I do that, I'm going to have to make the whole eye a little bigger, it looks like, but I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to zoom out and see what it looks like. So let's look at it. Oops. Well, it doesn't look too bad when we have it all the way zoomed out. So let's even bring it in just a little bit bigger here, and I think it looks pretty good. This one I could probably move around, move a little bit. But you can get them positioned exactly where you want them. Okay? Now, the next thing that we're going to look at doing is adding some arms. And with the arms, we're going to use one of the tools that we've used already and a different tool. So that was working with the Elliptical Marquee.